What would you do if your family unplugged your dying baby to charge a phone for TikTok? My name is Juliet Lane. And in the next 45 minutes, you're going to watch me burn my bloodline to the ground to save my blood. They were laughing. My baby stopped breathing and they were laughing. Ring lights blazing. Lip gloss gleaming. A TikTok draft playing on loop in the background. I moved toward the outlet. That's when I saw it. The oxygen monitor unplugged. Wires dangling like forgotten promises. Like my son's life meant less than a Wi-Fi signal. I reached for the plug. My fingers 1 inch away. Don't touch that. My own sister. The woman I shared secrets with since we were 5. She needs to post her TikTok fast. This beeping can wait. This beeping. My son's heartbeat. Could wait. My baby lay in the corner. 4 pounds. Lungs fragile as morning mist. He began to twitch. The monitor screamed. And they rolled their eyes. She's being dramatic again. My niece is 17 years old, 10,000 followers, 0 humanity, smirked and spun into another choreographed pose. Then he turned blue. My baby boy turned blue. His chest rising and falling like a broken machine trying to remember how to walk, and my father. The man who taught me to ride a bike. He didn't flinch. Maybe it's better this way. Weak ones don't deserve to live anyway. That's when something inside me broke. Not loud. Not sharp. Just a soft click. Like the sound of a woman deciding she's never going back. But here's what they didn't know. While they were laughing, while they were dancing, while my son was dying, I was already recording. And what happens next? It will destroy the entire world in 72 hours. I reached for the monitor again. My sister grabbed my wrist. Mid-air. Nails digging in. Don't ruin her moment. I looked at her. This woman I used to share secrets with. This woman who held my hand at our grandmother's funeral. And I saw only teeth. I didn't scream. I didn't plead. I didn't beg like I'd done my entire life. I stepped back. Took out my phone. And hit record. Then I whispered 911. My child can't breathe and my family just unplugged his life support to charge a phone. As the siren screamed through the speaker, my niece twirled again. Laughing. Because she didn't know what was coming. But I did. My name is Juliet Lane. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Because what happens when a mother is forced to choose between her bloodline and her blood? The paramedics arrived in 3 minutes. But in betrayal time. That's a lifetime. I watched them push past ring lights and glitter. Watched my mom gasp like she was the victim. Wait. Wait. It's just a misunderstanding. She tried to pull one of them back. They brushed her off like dust. I pointed to the monitor, still unplugged, still lifeless. Then to the corner where my son's tiny body lay trembling. Lips blue. He stopped breathing. The outlet was used to charge a phone. The medic glanced at the charger. Then to the half-lit screen showing a post-TikTok draft. Then to my dad. And maybe it was the way he didn't look away. Didn't flinch. Like guilt was a foreign language to him. They swarmed my baby. One worked the oxygen. One checked his vitals. And one turned to me. You did the right thing. If you hadn't called, he might not have made it. That's when I had it. The video still playing on my phone. Not the TikTok. My recording. Every word. Mom's indifference. Dad's cruelty. My sister's grip. The laughter. The truth. My niece walked over. Finally catching on. You didn't actually send that, did you? I turned my phone so she could see the screen. Uploading. To drive. To cloud. To backup. Then I whispered, not yet. But oh, I would. And when I did, 4 million people would watch her world collapse. Police showed up moments later. Mom tried again. Always trying to rewrite reality. She's exaggerating. That monitor's always beeping. We didn't mean any harm. But the officers weren't listening to her. They were listening to my son's faint, gasping breaths. And the medic's voice saying, "Get Child Protective Services on the line. This is beyond neglect." My dad finally moved. Finally spoke. "You called the cops on your own family." I looked him dead in the eyes. "You unplugged my son's lungs for a TikTok." Then I handed the officer my phone. "Everything's on here." He took it. Nodded. And in that moment, I realized the silence I had grown up swallowing was about to choke them. By nightfall, the house felt like a crime scene. Because it was. Yellow tape over the nursery door. The same door my mother once painted yellow when I brought my son home from the NICU. Now she stood outside it. Pacing. Crying. Not for my baby. For herself. They are treating us like criminals. As if that wasn't exactly what they were. My niece was still filming. Still. Whispering to her followers on live. My aunt's trying to ruin my life. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't focused on TikTok anymore. I was busy printing legal copies of the footage. Flash drives. Backup drives. 3 of them. One already in my lawyer's hands. My son lay in a hospital crib now. Stable. Breathing. The nurse said he flinched when anyone turned off the lights. Because his last memory of home was blue skin and nowhere to go. I stood by his side. And I said, "Not again. Not ever." Then I opened my email. And pressed send. 1 to Child Services. 1 to the local news. And 1 to the same talent agency my niece had been begging to notice her. Subject line, "Behind the filter, the truth about your newest influencer." Attached, the uncut clip. I didn't need to add a caption. The footage spoke for itself. By morning, it had over 4 million views. And the comments weren't kind. She stepped over a dying baby for content. This family doesn't need therapy. They need charges. Where's CPS? This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Arrest them all. By noon, reporters were outside their house. My sister called, crying. "You ruined her future. She tried to end mine." Click. By the end of the day, the agency released a statement. "We do not support or represent individuals involved in child endangerment. Effective immediately, all partnerships are terminated." And suddenly, the ring lights in their home dimmed. But my world. It started to brighten. Because the same voice that told me to stay quiet all my life was now echoing across the internet. Demanding justice. The courtroom smelled like dust and disappointment. Mom wore pearls. As if she could accessorize her way out of this. Dad didn't bother dressing up. Just sat there like a statue someone forgot to sculpt fully. My niece. No phone. No lashes. Just wide, empty eyes. Like she finally understood. Likes won't save you in real life. The judge looked over the documents. Silent. Then leaned back. I've reviewed the footage, the hospital records, and the CPS reports. I have one question for the defendants. What part of that child's suffering did you find funny? No one answered. Not even my mother. For once, no excuses. No misunderstood joke. No, it was just a moment. The silence did what years of shouting never could. It exposed them. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, we are requesting full restraining orders, a no-contact clause, and immediate placement on the child neglect registry. The judge nodded slowly. Granted. Effective immediately. Mom gasped like she'd been shot in the heart. You can't do this. We are family. I stood. No. We are a bloodline. Family requires humanity. Then I handed over one last envelope to the court officer. The judge raised an eyebrow. What's this? A second video. Dated months earlier. Footage from a baby cam they didn't know I still had. It showed my dad tossing a blanket over my son's incubator. To shut him up. Showed my sister yelling at me for turning the oxygen back on. Showed my mom shrugging. Sipping wine. The court gasped. The judge banged the gavel. I'm elevating this case to criminal negligence. An investigation will proceed immediately. And just like that, the people who unplugged my child for a dance video were now facing felony charges. Outside, reporters gathered. My lawyer turned to me. Do you want to give a statement? I looked at the cameras. Flash bulbs popping. Microphones pushed forward. And I whispered, tell them I'm not a hero. I'm just a mother who finally pressed play. My house used to echo with their voices. Now. Just lullabies. And steady breaths. My son slept. Chest rising, falling. Machines quietly monitoring his tiny heart. Safe. Because I built a home that didn't need apologies to survive. Meanwhile, across town, my sister's face was splashed on every local channel. TikTok influencer turned cautionary tale. Family charged after viral clip reveals dangerous neglect of infant. Hashtag oxygen for likes trends nationwide. I didn't need to speak. The world had seen it all. Even brands that once partnered with my niece were pulling away like they'd touched fire. We had no idea she was involved in something this cruel. Their golden girl now trended under the hashtag oxygen for likes. But here's the part they never saw coming. The twist that destroyed them completely. Remember when I said I was busy with legal copies? I wasn't just building a case. I was building their eviction. Because here's what they didn't know. The house they lived in, it was still under my name. After Dad lost his job years ago, they used my credit to refinance. I'd signed the papers out of guilt. Thinking family meant sacrifice. Now I understood better. So I sold it. Every wall they decorated. Every mirror they danced in front of. Gone. I didn't even want them. Just waited until 2 p.m. when the new owner showed up with movers. Mom screamed on the lawn. My niece sobbed in the driveway. Dad tried threatening the realtor until police escorted him off the property. And me. I watched from my car. 2 blocks away. Feeding my son his bottle. Holding his tiny fingers. Softly whispering, you'll grow up in a home where love doesn't come second to someone's Wi-Fi signal. Later that night, a news anchor said the baby in the now viral video is recovering well, and sources confirm he's in full custody of his mother. My lawyer smiled. You just became the face of maternal justice. I didn't want fame. I wanted peace. But if the cost of peace was telling the world exactly who they were, then let the whole world hear. It started with one interview. A quiet studio. A soft-spoken journalist. My sleeping son in my lap. Why did you hit record? I paused. Not for drama. Not for tears. Just long enough to feel the weight of the answer. Because I knew they wouldn't believe me without proof. The segment aired that night. Local TV. Prime time. By sunrise. It was everywhere. Mother records shocking neglect to save infant son. Family now facing criminal charges. Hashtag oxygen for likes goes viral. Public outrage mounts. And then the messages started. From mothers. From nurses. From strangers who had lived quiet horrors and swallowed them. Thank you for not staying silent. You made me brave enough to walk away. My daughter finally called 911 after watching your video. I've been recording for months. Now I know what to do. I didn't know how to respond. So I kept doing what I knew. Telling the truth. My second interview aired on a national morning show. If you could say anything to your family right now, what would it be? I looked at the camera. This isn't revenge. It's protection. For every child who couldn't press record. Sponsors called. Foundations reached out. One pediatric wellness nonprofit offered to fund a full-time in-home nurse for my son. Another asked me to speak at their summit on digital abuse and neglect. Suddenly, the woman they mocked for being too sensitive was now the face of a movement. But the best moment. It came at 2 a.m. My son stirred in his crib. I went to check on him. The oxygen monitor still blinking. Quiet and strong. I bent over. Kissed his cheek. And he smiled. Not a reflex. A real tiny smile. The kind that says, I feel safe. That's when I knew. They'd stolen so much from me. But not him. He still had wonder. Still had breath. Still had me. The courtroom was packed this time. Reporters. Advocates. Even a senator's aide sat in the back row, scribbling notes. My sister sat at the defense table. Eyes hollow. No lashes. No spotlight. Just the shadow of what she built and destroyed. Mom looked older. She scanned the room for sympathy. Found none. Dad didn't show. Word was he'd skipped town after the house was sold. And me. I wore no makeup. No power suit. Just a pendant around my neck. One my son clutched in the NICU before he had a name. The judge read the charges. Felony child endangerment. Criminal negligence. Violation of medical safety protocols. My sister wept. But the tears weren't for my son. They were for the life she'd lost. Her lawyer begged for leniency. Your Honor, it was a moment of poor judgment. The prosecutor cut in. Your Honor, may we play the video again? The video played. Courtroom silence. That moment wasn't poor judgment. It was cruelty caught in high definition. The judge didn't flinch. She ruled swiftly. You are hereby sentenced to 2 years probation, mandatory counseling, and permanent placement on the National Child Neglect Registry. Mom gasped. My sister sobbed harder. But then, the unexpected. The judge turned to me. Mississippi Lane, do you have a final statement? I stood. Heart thudding. Breath slow. I turned not to the judge, but to my mother. I begged you. Not just that night, but my whole life. You chose silence. You chose convenience. You chose them. Then I turned to my sister. You danced over my child's body. I hope you remember that when no brand returns your emails. I faced the court. And to anyone watching, wondering if they should press record too, I lifted my phone. Do it. You're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're proof waiting to be believed. The courtroom clapped. Not loud. Just enough. Like justice exhaling. Outside, flashbulbs popped. My lawyer leaned in. They want to put your story in a documentary. I nodded. But my mind was already home. With a baby wrapped in light. Breathing. It's been a year. My son walks now. Wobbly steps. Gummy grin. Hands in the air like every moment is applause. We moved to a small town where no one calls him that baby from the video. Here, he's just Noah. Strong. Curious. Unbroken, the oxygen monitor sits in a shadow box on the wall. Wires still attached, framed like armor. A reminder that survival doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whizzes fast. Mom sent one last letter. No apology. Just a line scribbled in shaky ink. You were never meant to be a mother. She was right. I was meant to be his. My sister disappeared from the internet. No brand would touch her. She applied for jobs under new usernames. Didn't matter. Because the moment she handed me that silence instead of a plug, she muted her own future. I still get messages from strangers. From survivors. From women with shaking hands and whisper quiet courage. And I reply to every single one. Because someone once believed me when I couldn't even speak. Now I speak so others don't have to scream. One night, Noah fell asleep in my arms. His hand wrapped around my pendant. The same one he held in the NICU. And I whispered into the quiet, "Thank you for fighting." To him. To myself. To every mother who ever picked up a phone instead of looking away. Then I turned off the lights. And the monitor blinked softly in the dark. Steady. Faithful. Alive. If you're watching this and something in your chest just tightened, if you've been silent for too long, if someone in your life is making you feel crazy for protecting what matters, press record. Save the file. Tell someone. Because the world will believe you. I believe you. My name is Juliet Lane. And this is what happens when a mother stops asking for permission to protect her child.